Welcome to my video about Jim Miller, one of the most notorious gunslingers and hired killers of the American West. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the life and crimes of Jim Miller, and explore his legacy as a controversial and fascinating figure in the history of the American West. Jim Miller was born in Van Buren, Arkansas in 1861, and grew up in poverty in a family of 10 children. His father was a farmer who struggled to make ends meet, and the family often went without basic necessities. When Miller was still young, his family moved to Texas, settling in the small town of Pecos. As a young man, Miller began working as a cowboy and ranch hand, which was a common occupation in the Wild West. However, he soon turned to a life of crime, becoming involved in cattle rustling and horse stealing. These were profitable but risky activities, and Miller quickly gained a reputation as a skilled and daring outlaw. Despite his criminal activities, Miller was known for his charm and his ability to win people over. He was reportedly good-looking and charismatic, and had a way of convincing people to trust him even when they knew he was involved in illegal activities. This helped him to gain the trust of other outlaws and criminal organizations in the area, and he quickly became a sought-after member of the Texas underworld. By the time he was in his 20s, Miller had become a notorious figure in the Texas criminal underworld, and his reputation as a gunslinger and outlaw was spreading throughout the region. He was known for his quick draw and his deadly accuracy with a gun, and was feared by many who crossed his path. However, he was also respected by some for his loyalty and his willingness to take risks for his friends and allies. Jim Miller's criminal career as a gunslinger and hired killer in the American West was extensive and brutal. He was involved in numerous criminal organizations and worked for various outlaw gangs throughout his life, including the infamous John Wesley Hardin gang. Miller was known for his cold-bloodedness and his willingness to commit murder for money. He reportedly killed at least 12 people during his criminal career, although the exact number is unknown. Some of his most notorious crimes include the murder of former Deputy Sheriff A.W. Grimes, who had testified against Miller in a trial, and the assassination of former Texas Ranger Gabriel Cox, who had also testified against him. In addition to his work as a hired killer, Miller was also involved in other criminal activities, such as cattle rustling, horse stealing, and robbery. He was reportedly involved in the theft of a herd of cattle worth $30,000, which was a huge sum of money at the time. Despite his extensive criminal career, Miller was not always successful in his endeavors. He was arrested and jailed multiple times throughout his life, and he was eventually captured and convicted for the murder of former Deputy Sheriff Grimes. Jim Miller's criminal career as a gunslinger and hired killer eventually caught up with him. In 1909, he was arrested in Ada, Oklahoma for the murder of former Deputy Sheriff A.W. Grimes. Miller had reportedly hired 2 men to kill Grimes, who had testified against him in a previous trial, and the murder had been carried out in cold blood. Miller was extradited back to Texas to stand trial for the murder. The trial was highly publicized and attracted a great deal of attention from the media and the public. Miller maintained his innocence throughout the trial, but the evidence against him was strong and he was ultimately convicted of the murder and sentenced to death by hanging. Despite his reputation as a ruthless killer, Miller's trial was not without controversy. Some believed that he had been unfairly targeted by law enforcement officials, and there were accusations of witness tampering and jury intimidation. However, these claims were never proven, and Miller was ultimately executed on April 19, 1909. Miller's execution was attended by a large crowd of onlookers, many of whom were curious to see the notorious gunslinger meet his end. His death marked the end of an era in the American West, and cemented his legacy as one of the most notorious and feared figures of the time. Jim Miller's legacy as a gunslinger and hired killer in the American West has endured long after his death. He is remembered as one of the most notorious and feared outlaws of his time, and his name has become synonymous with the lawlessness and violence of the Wild West. Miller's reputation as a skilled gunslinger and cold-blooded killer has made him a popular figure in Western folklore and popular culture. He has been featured in numerous books, films, and television shows, often portrayed as a ruthless and cunning villain. Some of the most famous depictions of Miller include his portrayal by actor Tom Skerritt in the 1994 film Tombstone, and his appearance as a character in the popular video game Red Dead Redemption 2. However, Miller's legacy is not without controversy. Some have argued that his reputation as a gunslinger and hired killer has been exaggerated over the years, and that he was actually a more complex figure than he is often portrayed. There have also been accusations that Miller was unfairly targeted by law enforcement officials, and that his trial and execution were tainted by corruption and bias. Regardless of the truth of these claims, Jim Miller remains an enduring figure in Western history and culture. His life and career continue to fascinate and intrigue people to this day, and his name is likely to be remembered for many years to come. In conclusion, Jim Miller was one of the most notorious and feared gunslingers and hired killers of the American West. His life and career were marked by violence, crime, and brutality, and his legacy as an outlaw has endured long after his death. Miller's reputation as a skilled gunslinger and cold-blooded killer has made him a popular figure in Western folklore and popular culture, but his legacy is not without controversy. Regardless of the truth of the many stories and myths surrounding his life, Jim Miller's name will continue to be remembered as a symbol of the lawlessness and violence of the Wild West. If you enjoyed learning about the life and career of Jim Miller, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content about American Western gunslingers and outlaws. Your support helps me create more videos like this one, and I appreciate your engagement. Thank you for watching.